to minister to us this morning. And let me say this, having previewed the speech or the presentation or the ministry, I'm going to deny any portion of it, just for the record, that says I was fearful of anything. Okay? And you know what I'm talking about when she gets to it. God bless you.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
I am indeed very, very humbled to be standing here and addressing my congregation this morning. I'm definitely not a preacher, and I'm going to try my best to do what God has placed on my heart to do.
Yeah.
And I pray to Him that He will let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable unto Him. What is Mother's Day? In the United States, Mother's Day, an annual celebration set on the second Sunday in May, is a day of the year on which mothers are honored by their children and spouses. The day recognizes mothers, motherhood, and the maternal bonds in general, as well as the positive contributions that mothers make to society. Historically, this day was set aside to honor mothers whose sons had either died or were serving in the American Civil War. In 1868, Anna Jarvis set out to reunite families that had been divided during the Civil War and called for improved sanitations and health conditions for soldiers on both sides that were experiencing a typhoid outbreak at the time. She created Mother's Day work clubs to accomplish these improvements and established a Mother's Day a Mother's Friendship Day. It is she who is credited to have first envisioned this annual memorial for mothers. Unfortunately, she died in 1905 before the celebration became popular. Her daughter, Anna Jarvis, continued her mother's efforts. Mother's Day was celebrated for the first time in the United States in 1907. According to Women's Day magazine online, social activist Julia Ward Howe also led a Mother's Day for Peace anti-war observation on June 2nd, 1872, which was accompanied by a Mother's Day proclamation. The observance continued in Boston for about 10 years under Howe's personal sponsorship, then died out. Inspired by her mother, it was Jarvis, however, who got Congress to recognize the day, founded the Mother's Day International Association, and even trademarked the phrase Mother's Day. Today, taking lead from the American celebration, several countries the world over also celebrate their own versions of Mother's Day. For example, dating back to the 16th century, the United Kingdom celebrates Mothering Sunday every fourth Sunday following Lent. An equally commercialized day as the United States Mother's Day, Japan celebrates Kojun's birthday. Spain and Portugal honors the Virgin Mary and all mothers on December 8th. Less than 10 years after its enactment, however, Anna Jarvis became furious over the rampant commercialization of the day both she and her mother fought so hard to establish and popularize for mothers. She spoke out vehemently and called for the proclamation to be rescinded. She decried the ritual of the purchasing of greeting cards and pronounced that people had become too lazy to write a personal letter. Jarvis spent all her remaining wealth fighting what Mother's Day had become. Consequently, she was arrested during one of her protests in 1948 for disturbing the peace and died later that year. Advertisers for florists to cosmetics and jewelry stores, salons and spas, restaurants, boutiques, home and garden centers, tanning or nail salons, bed and breakfast, movie theaters, fitness centers and gyms, concerts and shows, grocery stores, resorts, water parks, shopping centers and malls, embroidery shops, and candy or ice cream shops all target husbands and children when Mother's Day rolls around. Statistics show that after Christmas and Easter, Mother's Day ranks third among the celebrations that net the most revenue for retail businesses. Mother's Day usually rakes in $2.6 billion on flowers, $1.53 billion on gifts, generating 7.8% of annual revenue for the United States jewelry industry, and $68 million on greeting cards. It's no wonder that Anna Jarvis ended up despising the merchandising of the celebration she once pushed for. Still, it is fitting that mothers the world over be honored. In spite of the commercialization, Mother's Day is a day that we can say thank you to our mothers for the 9 months and so much more. So many mothers have made countless sacrifices that their children may have better. Blessed is the mom who may not have had much to give, but taught her children to love Jesus. Many mothers today are praying for their wayward children, praying that the word of God will reach their needy hearts and that they will surrender to him. The Bible speaks to this in Ephesians 6:2-3. Honor thy mother in the Lord, and thy days shall be long upon the earth. It does include father, but for this I say mother. Children are urged to be obedient and respectful, and according to Ephesians 5:25, husbands are commanded to take care, provide, and love her as Christ loves, cares, and provides for the church. In writing this speech, one could argue that this verse speaks about a wife and not a mother. And I say, yes, it is. But God knew that a wife many times becomes a mother. Therefore, this verse is pregnant with expectation, and hence applies to wives as well as mothers. Life for mothers is replete with challenges. We all have our share of them, some more than others. Our reaction to the challenges that we face determines our level of growth or stagnation. Challenges help shape who we become, who we are. Are we strengthened or weakened by the burdens we bear? It is not surprising that those who truly take them to God in prayer or at the foot of the cross and leave them there are happier for it. It is our faith in God that makes us strong and able to withstand the pressures of this world. God has not promised a life without issues or valleys. What he has promised is to go through them with us. He has promised never to leave us nor forsake us. As long as we understand that we are not alone and that we are in the best hands ever, we can live stress-free. Serving God means that he's got your back and all things in control. As mothers, whatever you do, say, choose, or teach is going to be superimposed in your children. The deposits you make or don't make will definitely make an impression, whether you want it to or not. You've heard of the term, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Children learn from us. Parents are the first teachers. We can't leave anything up to chance. What they didn't get from us genetically, they're gonna get from us environmentally. And then they begin to make their own choices based on those experiences. That said, let me tell you a little bit about me and my quest as a mother. As a youngster, I had already figured out that one day I would become a wife. I was 10, and I knew who my husband was going to be. However, I viewed becoming a mother as a mysterious adventure. I had watched enough of the Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, and the Brady Bunch to know in my heart that a large family was not for me. I am the last of 8, and I didn't appreciate hand-me-downs. So at age 23, when I got married to my sweetheart, I decided that 2 children was the limit. My very new husband wanted 4. But I figured I'd have no problem convincing him of the former. Honestly, I've never thought of myself as a mother without first being a wife. I believe that God knew how complicated the matter of family would be, that He designed it to be the coming together of 2 minds, 2 hearts, 1 unit. It is an awesome and vast responsibility to be a parent. However, I know that there are many single mothers out there. I'm neither judging nor condemning you. There are a myriad of reasons that have brought you to this singleness position, and God knows every one of them. Just be the best mother that you can be. I remember being pregnant for the first time and feeling a little ashamed. Everyone's going to know I did something, I thought. I had to remind myself, it's okay, you're married. That's what married people do. It took me a little... It took me a little while to get comfortable with the mystery of giving birth to another human being. Boy, did I have lots to learn. I had morning sickness for 9 months. And though I am really glad I was born, I couldn't imagine my mother going through this 8 times. The first time I went to the hospital, it was a false alarm. I was shocked when they sent me back home, already 9 days overdue. The doctor said,
"If you don't feel the baby move, call me."
What was he thinking telling me that? I was a nervous wreck, every minute checking for a movement. Finally, my weary husband couldn't take it anymore. He called the doctor and whisked me away to the hospital. Our son was born 10 days beyond his due date. In the hospital, he seemed like such an angel, so quiet, so peaceful. I was not prepared for the dramatic change that occurred on our first night home. He cried throughout the whole night. My mother-in-law and aunt were in the other room and shamefully did not come to our rescue. Sheepishly, they knocked on the door the next morning. With tears in my eyes, I handed them the baby and exclaimed, "Here, I don't think I can be a mother." I soon learned how to adjust my sleeping patterns to accommodate a colicky child that would sleep in the day and cry at nights. He did this for 2 months straight. As much as I loved our baby, I was determined not to go through this again. Throughout the years, my husband and I went through many adjustments. At 3 years old, our precocious son pulled down a bowl of hot soup on himself. After rushing him to the doctor for treatment, we marveled at his resilience as we watched him play like nothing traumatic had occurred earlier that day. Hurricane Hugo passed through and displaced us to Grandma's house. I had just finished steam cleaning our carpet and was a bit distraught at the now filthy, soggy mess. After a few months, we returned to our place. My husband had managed to convince me to have another child. And we welcomed our daughter through the course of time. She was so tiny, he was afraid to hold her.
This is the denial.
Yes, you were. In the despair atmosphere of Hurricane Marilyn in 1995, I made a choice to run away to New Jersey, hoping that my loving husband would follow. I felt in my heart that God didn't want me to do this, but I was stubborn and determined to go. Pedro went with the children and me to my sister's, and later left us there. I prayed for God to direct me. A month later, we went back home. The dismal damage of the island was still widespread, and electricity was slowly being restored to homes that suffered little or no damage. But we had each other, and I understood then that that was much more important than the things that we lost. We survived the Pee Wee Baseball League. Pedro was one of the coaches for our daughter's team. Our son was in the Little League. I sat in the stands with the other doting parents, cheerleading pom-poms in hand, shouting chairs and coaching tips at the top of my lungs. Leave the butterflies alone, Janae! Throughout the years, we encouraged our children to get involved in church activities as well as sports. Our family kept pretty busy. Besides baseball games, there were soccer, volleyball, flag football, basketball, ballet, piano lessons, missionettes, Royal Rangers, children's choir, cheerleading, praise dance, drama, and finally, Christ ambassadors. We attended every game, recital, and special activity when they were very young, and almost every game, recital, and special activity as they got older. I could say that my childhood family experiences have a great deal to do with the kind of mother I am today. As much as I knew my parents loved me, the reality is they never came to any of my school activities or music recitals, and almost never picked up my report cards. Both my parents had limited formal education. Therefore, I believe they were intimidated by that. I was also never good at sports and was afraid to try anything. As a mother, I wanted to give my children what I didn't have. Sometimes I imagine I've been a bit overbearing and overprotective. But I thought, what the Waltons and Little House on the Prairie had looked good. I can only pray that my children will also improve on what I've given them as their mother and bring a greater balance to their experience as new parents when their time comes. Because of my mom's faith in God, I became a Christian at age 7. I remember crouching under her arm as she knelt to pray every morning and read the scriptures with her. She bought several vinyl records of Leif Erikson's dramatized Bible stories, The Last Supper, Joseph and His Coat of Many Colors, Daniel in the Lion's Den, Ruth and Naomi. I sat and listened and almost memorized every word. I often watched my mother admiringly as she read and studied the Bible. She has had a great positive influence on my life. My father smoked Winston-Salem cigarettes, drank liquor, and sometimes got drunk. He was not a Christian, and I witnessed to him as much as I could. I remember him walking down the aisle to give his heart to Jesus. That day was such a happy day for me. As a child, I believe I fed off my parents' personalities. Music always filled the air at our home. My mom sang the old hymns. My father, the old calypsos. I remember one tune by Lord Melody he often played as he strummed his guitar. A mother's love you should not forget. Wrong things you do, you're bound to regret. A mother's love you should not forget. Things you do, you're bound to regret. You can have money in quantity, or lots of friends in society, or lots of diamond, ruby, and gold. A mother's love is the master key of this world. On the other hand, Mom loved the music of Johnny Cash, the Chuck Wagon Gang, Jim Reeves, Mahalia Jackson, Andre Crouch, Wanda Jackson, Uncle Andy, and many others. I grew up in front of the radio more than the television on Saturday mornings, listening to the children's stories. On Wednesday evenings, I listened to E.G. Marshall on WSTA for the Mystery Theater. And I watched Masterpiece Theater on Channel 12 television. As a child, I loved stories, which in turn made me fall in love with reading. My parents, inasmuch as they may have been intimidated by the lack of formal education, taught me many wonderful things. Being a Christian helped me with the choices I needed to make in order to live righteously. It was also great being a part of the Missionettes girls group at church. Philippians 4:8 helped guide me through some tough times. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. I was always thinking. This verse helped me to focus my thinking. I believe that I acquired the love of reading and music, respect for authority figures and others, honesty, integrity, commitment, and a sense of responsibility from both my parents. Because they embodied those characteristics, they passed them on to me. I also believe that the Holy Spirit and my praying mother kept me from reliving their mistakes. And of course, as human we all are, and imperfect in every way because of sin, I've made a few of my own mistakes. Thank God for the forgiveness of sin. Because of his gift, we can get up, dust off the dirt, and walk in his light. A good mother is a virtuous woman. Proverbs 31:10 asks and answers the question, who can find a virtuous woman? She is far more valuable than precious stones or fine jewelry. A virtuous woman is defined by her good character, humility, and overall integrity. Her beauty stems not from her outward adornment, but is rooted deep within her being and exudes outward. Her dress is not glaring, begging to be noticed, but modest with just enough. A virtuous woman has nothing overly done. She shines without the sparkle and is noticed without the fanfare. She fears the Lord and is praised. Her lasting beauty reflects an inward heart of submission and a love for God and his people. Her wisdom and gentleness are the smooth cream that keeps her gorgeous long after the physical beauty fades. She is not puffed up with pride and prejudices, hatred, unforgiveness, revenge, and gossip. Rather, she is filled with love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, honesty, purity, faith, hope, and good report. What does it take to be a good mother, worthy of honor? According to an internet survey, men were asked to give their view of the top 10 indicators of what constitutes a bad mother. I have taken the liberty of inverting the angle of the question and entitled it, The Top 10 Indicators of What Constitute a Potentially Good Mother, One Worthy of Honor. Here is the list from 10 to 1, as I have taken the liberty to edit. Number 1, above all else, seek God's guidance through His Word and thoughtful prayer. Number 2, engage only in constructive behavior, such as sticking to the speed limit, not eating too much, and not abusing substances such as drugs, alcohol, and so on. Children need calm, stable environments with a responsible mother to care for them. Reckless behavior would only create a chaotic, dangerous environment for them and a training ground for truant, deviant, unhealthy behaviors. 3, tell your children that you love them and express it to them not only in words. Attending their performance or ball game says a lot more than you think. Number 4, be more concerned with your child's spiritual and physical health, education, integrity, and character than the brand of stroller you put him in. Being obsessively materialistic could present a serious drain on the family funds and further train your child to desire things he cannot afford. Rather, be frugal and wise in your spending and teach your child to do the same. Number 5, show that you care, not only for yourself, but for your child and for others. A self-centered mother can really mess up a child. Children are desperate for a mother's love and affection. Parents have to put their children first. Number 6, having children means spending more time at home, especially with a baby. Compromises must be made between social time and other activities to attend to the needs of children. Number 7, be a mother first and a best friend when they are adults. Children need guidance, not a cool best friend mom who doesn't mind buying beer for her 16-year-old. They may not like your rules and reprimands. They may not like your rules or reprimands now, but they will thank you for it later. As much as children may feel like they know it all, you know that they don't. You've been there, done that. Number 8, embrace your nurturing side. Give hugs generously. Sometimes that's all your child needs. Number 9, be patient, especially when it comes to babies and young children. Little children can be unreasonable. They don't always listen, and they need constant attention and affection. They can throw tantrums and spill stuff. A parent needs to understand this and take all these inconveniences in stride. Number 10, finally, be at peace with yourself and others. Be gentle and nonviolent. The prime directive for all parents is to provide a safe environment for their children to grow up in. That means a house free from physical or verbal abuse, not only towards your child, but also towards your spouse. And while the Bible speaks to sparing the rod and spoiling the child, Exacting physical punishment should not lead to physical or emotional anguish. Remember, our children are potentially future husbands, future wives, future fathers, future mothers. Our example at home makes a huge impact. And the responsibility we have is not at all a trifling thought, but rather very sobering. Happy Mother's Day, woman of excellence, woman of virtue, woman of purpose, woman of honor. May God grant you the serenity to accept the things that you cannot change, the knowledge to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference.